Hello and welcome back to Conquering My Collection. Holy moly, it finally happened. After 7 years of collecting the Masters of Cinema range from Eureka, I finally found a film in the collection I don't like. Let that settle in. I'll give you a moment. Also, I've just recorded about an hour and a half's worth of video, so if my voice is fairly hoarse, forgive me. But I had to finally sit down and talk about this film. And forget, I don't know when the film was released, 1981? 1981. And it was directed by Jacques Rivette and is called Le Pont du Nord. I believe that's how you pronounce it. The North Bridge is the English translation. Wow, where do I go with this? So many things to say. First of all, it took me about a month to watch the film. It really did. I tried watching this so many times, and it's funny because the cover of this film has always intrigued me so much. It just looks like something I'd enjoy. Like, I don't know. I've always been drawn in by this cover. These two women looking at this map on the street. And, what kind of mystery is this? What are they trying to solve? And 1980s Paris, I just feel like, this is going to be really good. And I've been kind of holding it off for a rainy day, and the rainy day came, and I fell asleep after 10 minutes thinking, what was going on? Tried it again, got about half an hour in. Nah, just not interested, turned it off. I think a third time I tried it, and I got about 45 minutes in, and I just thought, there's just nothing happening, and I'm just going to go to bed. Finally, I forced myself to watch this film properly from bell to bell. So I'm fairly familiar with the first 45 minutes of the film. And yeah, just not great. Where do I go? Where do I go in summing this up? There'll be a couple of spoilers, I guess. I don't think that really matters at this point. With this film. I don't want to speak disparagingly of it, and I wouldn't begrudge anyone who loves the film. I think there's certainly a lot of merit within the film contained collectively. Well, not collectively, but individually in certain points. So, we have these two women in Paris. The first one is called Marie, and the second is Baptiste. And Marie is maybe 40s, maybe something like that, middle-aged. And Baptiste is early 20s, and these two women they cross paths a number of times throughout the day in the city on the first day, and the film takes place over 4 days. And Baptiste realizes that our paths keep crossing. We need to kind of stick together. There's something to this, And Marie has just come out of prison, and she kind of has a little bit of agoraphobia. No, agoraphobia is when you're afraid of going out. My apologies. No, it's is it claustrophobia? When you don't want to, what is it? I think it's claustrophobia. Well, I know what claustrophobia is because I have slight claustrophobia myself. Yeah, claustrophobia. It is claustrophobia, but she says kind of this thing about being indoors and being in enclosed spaces. Yeah, it's claustrophobia. What the fuck am I talking about? So Marie, she's a little bit damaged, and she's looking for a former lover, Pierre, I think, and she finds him, and they're all lovey-dovey and everything, but he's got this briefcase, and he needs to do something, and once he's done it, he'll come back, and they'll go off together. So she's holding on to this promise that Pierre will come back to her, and things will be okay. But this bloody briefcase is like this thing that he's holding on to, and he won't tell her what he's doing with it. Baptiste, on the other hand, she kind of rolls into the film as she means to stay on this rinky-dink little motorbike, and she comes into Paris. I think she says something sarcastically like, the Babylon, just almost looking disparagingly on Paris. And Paris is interestingly photographed throughout the film. You see a lot of just construction and kind of very grey palettes at times, and there's some great stuff in kind of the city streets and everything, but there's a lot of there's industrial areas at times, or just areas that have been demolished, and there's just a single building, and really interesting visual landscape of 1980 Paris. And I like how the film opened with I think there's a title card that says November or December of 1980, already quite a long time ago, something like that. It's like a nice whimsical opening title card. So Baptiste and Marie, they come together, and Baptiste she's off her head. She comes in on the motorbike, and she crashes, and the bike gets kind of stuck, kind of with the back wheel going, and instead of correcting it, she just cuts the fucking lead and leaves the bike. I mean, she's very impulsive, very freewheeling. At one point, she steals these big pair of grey over the head, headphones, and she has them around her neck for the majority of the movie. She just walks around in a leather jacket, just practicing her kung fu or whatever the martial art is. And she takes a knife and she gouges out the eyes of all the posters that she sees, and she gets very triggered by that. And you have Marie, who's this kind of claustrophobic, but still, you get the sense of someone who really feels free being out of prison. Just moments where she'll sit down and just be like, just breathing in the air and just appreciating it. And I feel like there's a fucking great movie in here with these two characters who are both damaged in very different ways. And you never really dive into that too much. And it's quite sweet, their relationship. And what made it even more sweet to me was that this is actually a mother and daughter in real life. The characters aren't, but the actual performers and actors are. And I was really affected to learn that the actress who played Baptiste, I think her name was Pascal Augier, I don't know how you pronounce that. She died a few years after this film came out. I was like, fuck, like in her mid-20s? And apparently it was like a heart murmur, like a rare thing. That it's just like, fucking hell, and it just adds a whole weight of, meaning to it, where it's just like this mother-daughter kind of pairing captured on film before she died a few years later. I think that her acting, it's... I can't say because she died tragically young that I can kind of, give her slack or anything, but I think her acting, the actress who plays Baptiste, is just not very good in the film. I don't buy it. I see someone trying to be weird at times, and there's a scene when they're sleeping on a bench and she wakes up and she falls off the bench onto the floor, and it looks like a 7-year-old pretending to fall asleep and fall off a bench. When she goes to stab this big poster of Kagemusha, the Akira Kurosawa film, she goes like this, and she's like, but you can tell she's waiting for Marie to stop her, so it's this kind of stilted, and then there's a scene when she walks past this big brick wall, and there's a big poster with his face on it, and she stops and she stabs the eyes out. But when you see the wide shot, this poster is so fucking high that for the previous shot to really have logically existed, she'd have to be like 10, 12 feet tall. And so these inconsistencies, and as the cameraman catches himself in the reflection of a shop and then turns the camera, the boom mic is coming down every other... Well, there's 2 times I saw the boom mic, I won't exaggerate, but I'm just thinking, there's stuff in this that's really well framed and well shot, and some of the acting is pretty good, and some of these quieter moments are really beautiful, and then there's just this sloppy amateur stuff that comes in, and I'm sure there's people watching this who are getting really annoyed when I say stuff like that, because this film has such a great reputation. And I'm all for kind of, not playing by the rules and not having a traditional structure in terms of story, and even doing different things and weird things in terms of acting and plotting and everything. But there's even moments in the sound which is really choppy. Like there's one scene where she's looking out to this building. So you have the shot of her looking out the building, and you hear in the background all the kind of background noise and kind of the like all this stuff going on. Then we cut to the building and her point of view, and it just no background noise. We cut back to her, to her looking at the building. The background noise comes up again. It just feels really like hastily, sloppily done at times in terms of some of the sound, and it's just strange. I don't know, because some parts of it feel so well put together. But then, a guy will fall over and the camera will turn, you'll see a crew member's leg sticking out, and then, spoilers, at the end of the film, a character gets shot, and a car drives by, the camera pans along with it, but before the camera is completely panned out of view of the person who's dead on the floor, the person dead on the floor starts to get up. I don't know if this was low budget and they couldn't afford any retakes at all, but holy fuck, I don't know about you, but when a character dies at the end of a movie, and then the actor just gets up again and the camera kind of moves away, I suddenly don't feel that death in any way, shape or form. And then the final scene, which is kind of like one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in a film. Not in terms of visually, but just in terms of what's actually happening. This guy who's kind of been built up to be a bit of a dodgy character, a bit of a seedy guy who might possibly, kill you off if he gets the chance. And we've just seen one of his men kill someone else off. He tracks down Baptiste. And she's like, right, I'm going to fight you. And now all that kind of kung fu stuff you're going to see is going to come into play. So he's like, okay, you want to fight? Let's fight. So that he's trying to fight her on this bridge. And now she's laughing as they're kind of fighting, and she's doing these really bad kicks. And then he takes off his jacket, and he's like, "No, you gotta put your arm out like this, like just get this here, so you get this position." And then they just start practicing this like kata thing to get. I think it's called kata, like whatever it's called. They're just practicing it, and that's the end of the film. And then suddenly, like the image changes, and there's like a line through the screen. It separates it into 4 quadrants, and the quality gets lesser. And it's like we're watching it from like a news camera, and then it changes again, and then they're just practicing, and then the camera just pans away, and that's it. And I both loved it and kind of thought, what the fuck is going on? I don't. What? Why? There's a scene where Baptiste is being tailed by this guy. No, she's tailing a guy. And then he kind of corners her in a place that's really dodgy, and he could easily just kill her. You know, there's no one around. But instead, he gets this little machine that seems to be like whipping cobwebs onto her, or some kind of webbing, like string. And she just kind of backs away, and he just presses it against her, and it's just this very like meek, and she just lies like that and gets cocooned in this. It just looks like a flea could get out. Well, of course a flea could get out of it, but it looks like, it just looks like you just push your hand through and you're done. But she's like stuck there. And then Marie comes and saves her and takes a knife and has to cut it all over. What is it? I don't know what the fuck it was. Like, is it something I'm not aware of, like some construction material? I don't know. Was it like webbed concrete? I've got no fucking clue. So I was just so like confused throughout the film. There's bits where it just drags on. The briefcase finally gets kind of revealed, and they take out all the contents. There's all these like news clippings and various people being targeted, and she's just leafing through these clippings, and it's just a shot of the clippings, and it just keeps going and going. I mean, it's not showing you them in a really interesting way or trying to like pep it up with the editing. It's just like her looking down, flicking through it, shut down, flicking through it, and it just goes on and on. And I'm just like, fucking pacing, please. And again, I get it. I know sometimes, just not everything has to be done by the book. But my mind just starts to wander when you're not, I don't know, there's something to be said about good pacing, there really is. And there were times where, the acting of the actress who plays Baptiste was pretty good. There's some scenes where her character really worked, and I actually found her character really funny at times. There's a lot of good humor in the film, and, her and Marie are wandering through Paris and wandering across train tracks and having these philosophical discussions, and there's humor in there, and there's a few kind of good thoughts in there, but I think they both helped in writing the film. It really just feels like a home movie, like with a really good budget. There are times when they're in like a market out in the streets, and there are people just kind of looking at the camera, and I'm just like, are they just doing this with no permit? They're just like, let's just go fucking film it. I don't know. I really don't. But there's like a bleakness to it in terms of, again, the grayness of the color palette, and just, I don't know, there's just moments that I liked, and then just moments I'm just like, how long's left, And I'm reading the booklet, just to see. I'm just saying, I'm reading like, Jacques Rivette's thoughts on the film, and he doesn't really have much to say that was really interesting to me, and it just seems, it gets asked a question, like you put forward a certain number of ideas very much within the sensibility of the era, the idea of obstacle as opposed to the spectacle, the abject in cinema, the rejection of the auteur, the erasure of the auteur. And this is Rivette's answer. It's like 2 full block pages, and it's a bit like the booklet for Une Femme Marie, the Jean-Luc Godard film in the collection. I can't make heads or tails of it. I guess I'm just not that intelligent. It's gobbledygook to me for the most part, and I'm trying to understand it. I'm trying to get what they mean, but I don't know if it's lost in translation because it's French. I don't understand. But there's a woman who wrote about this. Actually, there's a kind of correspondence here. I don't know who these people are, but there's these two people who write these emails to each other in 2013, and that's been presented in the booklet, the back and forth emails. And I kind of got from them why they love the film, and so I understood that from some perspective. But I'm trying to find this one thing, which will probably be difficult to find now without stopping the video a second, that really just it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, I guess. Yeah, I can't find the point. I'd have to read the whole bloody booklet again, and I haven't got the time or the patience for that. I really tried. The film looks great, the transfer is really nice, and it gives you, again, and one thing I do love about films that are shot on location, older films, especially foreign older films, and you just get this passport into another world, another time, another place, and I love that. And I love that about this film. I really did. But there was something in the booklet about how, like, the statues that we see, and there's this opening sequence where Baptiste is riding around on a motorbike and she's looking at the statues on these roundabouts in the streets of Paris, and there's this music playing, this kind of jaunty kind of theme, and then suddenly it just cuts, like hard cut, and the music's gone, and I'm just like, okay, that was abrupt. And in the booklet, someone's talking about how the statues in the film represent how we as people are statues and our bodies are separate from each other and all this. And I'm just thinking, they're just fucking statues. They're just fucking statues. Do we have to look into every single fucking thing and wring meaning out of it, just like a wet rag, just get some fucking drops out of it? It's got to mean something, you know. And I was saying this to Connie. I was just like, you know, the fucking statues don't mean anything. And then Connie said to me, it was a very interesting comment. She said, unless they do. Put me in my place. It is entirely possible they could mean something, and that was part of the intent. But I feel like, particularly with foreign cinema, I don't know, I think that people have a tendency to look really deep into, like, you don't see in like a mainstream Hollywood movie, you know, like, you don't look at like an Avengers film and go like, oh man, the way that Joss Whedon shot the Chrysler Building, it's really a commentary on the you know, how on how the building overlooks the man. Like, I don't know, that's a bad example. You can just kind of fit, you know, just make anything fit if you want, and just I just don't see it. But then that's me, you know, and there are people who see things in a completely different way, and who enjoy looking at any given frame of a film and finding some kind of meaning in it, and that ultimately is up to the viewer, and there is nothing wrong with that. And that is the way to watch a film, I think, is to completely view it and take it in how you feel is right, and what feels instinctually, you know, what it's giving you and what you're taking back from it. So I understand, but I just get frustrated when I'm not seeing a lot of the depth. And the film feels very shoddily put together, I'll say that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think it's any less of a film or any less artistic because of that. But, you know, if people are going to tell me that it's an artistic choice to have bad acting and to have the boom mic fall into frame, which, you know, is ultimately a mistake. But, you know, when a main character gets killed and then they just get up again in camera shot, you can't tell me that's the point of it, you know. And ultimately, I then found out that, oh, this character who I'm trying to invest in, by the end, it doesn't really matter because they're going to get killed and then they're just going to get up. And so the feeling of, oh no, they've been killed, doesn't really register because I've just seen the actor get up again. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. The ending with Baptiste, where she kind of the kind of the thug, the henchman, the whatever you want to call him, this shady guy is gonna kill her, or, you know, seriously harm her, and then now he's just giving her kung fu tips, or karate tips, or taekwondo tips, whatever that martial art is meant to be. I'm no expert. That I can at least buy as some weird thing that might actually happen between two human beings. You know, at first I'm seeing her crack up during the fight and I'm like, oh my god, she's breaking character. But I think, is she really? You know, we don't really see Baptiste show any kind of positive emotion except for one point near the end where she smiles. And even that felt a bit forced, you know. So ultimately, I just don't buy into this film. And it's a shame. And there comes the biggest dilemma of all, because I've only just finished completing the whole Masters of Cinema collection, and the first film I watched after that, I think, well, no, was it the first? I can't remember. Either way, a few weeks ago I watched A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, and that film, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, was incredible. I loved it. It validated my collection. It's like, oh my god, I love this film. I had no idea about it before. Completely random, you know, viewing. I didn't go, oh, it's Elia Kazan's first film. I just thought, that one. You know, and it was an incredible experience. And then we have the polar opposite of that in this film, Le Pont du Nord. I don't know if I'd ever watch it again. So why hold on to it? Why keep it? Because it's part of the collection? Yeah. I don't think I could part with it, because there's some part of me that thinks, fuck, maybe in 20, 30 years, I might think, oh, it's not. I'd like to watch that really weird film again. I'd like to see a snapshot of Paris in 1980 again. And I might want to watch it, you know. And it might be completely different the next time I watch it, and I might have completely different life experiences the next time I watch it. And I'll see things in it that I hadn't seen before. And maybe, just maybe, I'll see some deeper meaning in those fucking statues. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.